Welcome to Raiders the Lost Art, Episode 8, the War Guitar Part 2. Going to be an incredible session today. I've got two of the most legendary players of touch style in the world on the call with me today and on this episode. So, please welcome Randy Strom and Jim Wright. Woohoo! Welcome, guys. Thanks so much for being on the call. It's going to be very, very hard for me to introduce Randy. Randy's one of these guys that, you just see his videos on YouTube and you're just sort of in awe, a bit like Jim. Knowing that Jim's had such a long career in this industry and knows everyone in the scene, I thought what I might do, Jim, if it's all right with you, I might just pass it on to you just to sort of give everyone just a quick snapshot about who Randy is.
Well, he was one of the premier touch musicians in the world. He started playing the stick in 1976. Studied directly with Emmett Chapman, was in the band Kitty Hawk, was instrumental in the development of the Warr guitar, introduced Trey Gunn to the Warr guitar. He was the guitarist and played stick with the house band at the Baked Potato, one of the most famous jazz clubs in the world, for many years in Don Randy's band. He worked music on Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, was assistant to the composer, also an orchestrator. He was the solo guitarist on Burton Cummings' first solo album. He was the lead guitarist. And he also toured with Burton Cummings. He toured with Trey Gunn. I mean, come on. You're talking about touch guitar royalty here.
Yeah, well, welcome, Randy. It's so great to have you here.
Well, thanks so much for having me, you guys. This is great.
Yeah.
It's our pleasure.
Jim, I'm going to sort of, you're sort of, I know you've got such a great background in this, but for the people tuning in for the first who's new to the instrument, I can just say to you that, this instrument is so incredible, and to have these guys and have access and hear their stories it's just unbelievable. The joys of modern technology these days allow you to connect like never before. And, if you're like me and you start on this journey with this instrument, you've got not only the world at your feet, you've got some of the world's best knowledge right here on this episode. So I'm really honored to have everyone here. So with that being said, look, I'd just like to ask a question to Randy to start with. Randy, as someone who's new to the instrument, I've only been, playing a year. I'm just interested in your journey. What was it? How did you move from being this guitar player into, or keyboard player or whatever you were, into finding this instrument? What was that point in history? Can you just take us back a little bit and map that journey out for us about where you first found the stick and how you moved that into the Warr guitar?
Well, yeah. So I was always playing the guitar and the keyboard, and when I saw Emmett had the article in Guitar Player magazine, I never heard of it, and then I heard of it, and I saw that he had the two regions with the bass and the guitar, and it's a keyboard reflex. And so I was very intrigued by this. So when I got a chance to, I got a hold of him. I got to see him. That's where we met Paul, because Paul Edwards was working for him. And I bought a stick just that very same day, kind of. And so I went to messing around with it for years and years, and then finally got into it a lot stronger, and used to be on the gigs where just pull it out now and then and show it have it be part of the show. And then eventually, doing like solo gigs with it and not playing my regular guitar at all, so.
And so then how did that turn into you looking for going beyond the stick into, looking for the Warr guitar? Where did that come about?
Okay, so the cute and funny answer is I wanted some body. The stick has no body. I wanted somebody to love. So but there's a bunch of technical reasons why the Warr guitar is kind of the professional version of the idea of the stick, with all the intonation improvements and adjustable tail pieces and truss rods, and in addition to the body.
So you were there at the early stages, right? Were you talking to Mark Warr, or did he come to you, or did you?
Yeah, Mark was taking lessons from Jim and from me, and I guess from Paul also. And he was, he was a guy that was just frustrated with the manifestation of the stick, like we all were, and he wanted to start building, so he started to learn how to build. And then he really learned how to build. He studied like big time, and we got to the point where he would build these instruments, and at some point then I just added the idea of hanging it from your shoulder with the strap buttons, move the strap buttons instead of at the top horn and the tail, to just move them and put them so that would hang like a vertical, neck. And then, gosh, it was so, the funny story for me is Mark said, well, I'm going to build you another instrument or a new instrument. And I was so busy film scoring TV and film scoring work that I didn't think about it. And all of a sudden, 2 years, he calls up and says, hey, your instrument's done. I'm like, wow, that's great. And it was beautiful. And I'm on number 2 and number 3 Warr guitars at this point.
Wow, it seems, again, interesting for me. I'll pass over to Jim in a minute to sort of elaborate, but it seems to me, a lot of people ask me the difference between the two, and again, I'm not really, I wouldn't say I'm anywhere near someone who can talk about it, but I just know from my experience of only having played the stick for a couple of months before I got heavily into the Warr guitar, is that the Warr guitar seems to have infinite amount of combinations and possibilities. And so there seems to be people who have this traditional stick cross tuning, and then people with uncrossed, and some people have 5 and 7 and 9 and 6. And so it seems like it's an opening doorway with the Warr guitar that's not limited to you don't have to lock yourself to the one instrument. You can get them, providing you can afford them, in any way, shape or form. So it's an instrument that's not locked. It doesn't force you to wait to work around it. It seems to be able to be molded around your dimension. Would you like to sort of elaborate on that, Jim? Is that correct, or is there?
I like the way you played that. It comes to you. You don't have to go to it. It leaves you so free. I mean, for me, the most important thing is 2 pickups on the bass side, 2 pickups on the guitar side. So instantly you've got 3 different sounds from the bass side and 3 different sounds from the guitar side. As a guitar player, I want to use the bridge pickup for distortion and the neck pickup for jazz. That's a big deal for me. I know Mark was also very set on having a 34-inch scale length because he wanted the bass to sound as good as a Fender bass. And I'm trying to think. Well, as Randy said, the woods and the body, it really does make a difference. I remember at the time I first saw Mark's guitars, there was a lot of discussion on the brand new internets that the pickups created most of the sound for touch guitars. And I know Mark was conscious of this because when I went to see his guitars the first time, he had 3 guitars set up for me, all with different woods, so that I could hear the difference that the wood made in the sound of the instrument. And I now have 3 guitars, all of different woods, and to me they're like, this one here is like my Stratocaster. The new one that Pete made for me is like my Les Paul. I have a semi-hollow one, that's my 335, and I wanted to stay within the world of the guitar. I didn't want a brand new instrument that sounded like harpsichord or clavinet or whatever. I wanted bass and guitar, and Mark definitely supplied that for me. Even though, like you say, with the cross tunings, you can still integrate both sides, and if you want to, turn it into one big instrument.
And that's the thing for me is that, I look at both you guys playing and your videos, which, you've seen already, one of them, and you'll see some more. They're just mind-blowing. And so you are playing, whether you're playing Zappa-esque stuff, jazz stuff, whatever it is, ambient stuff, it seems like the instrument can lend itself to being played like a keyboard, or to be played as one synthesized idea where all the different strings are coming together under one sort of paradigm. There's different rhythms that can be played between the hands, so you can play it, from rhythmic structures. And so it seems to be, you can take it anywhere you want. And to me, that's what's exciting about it. It's not limiting by, okay, well, this is a thing now, it's a tapping thing. You can really take it out of being a tapping thing into this whole musical sort of universe, if you will.
Yes.
It's I don't know. What do you think about something like that, Randy?
Oh yeah, well I think I wanted to talk about the incredible journey between just to me, like it's like a slide rule. I mean, the keyboard's like that too, but the, to have it be able to just kind of slide around on it and all the, get that real string against fret feeling, and then all of a sudden, like we were talking about the other day, these bar chord. If you just bar the bass side and bar the guitar side, and it sounds a certain way, and just start moving to different frets, you get this wide, amazing range of tonalities, sonorities, voicings, and it's incredible. And then if you start using the fingerings of the triads and harmonic shells and everything, the whole instrument turns into a giant slash chord chart.
Yeah, I would agree. Starting as a guitar player, I was happy to leave bass off to the other person who had to handle that. But when I became a touch player, I had to become conscious of that. And of course, guitar players have notoriously bad time. So there's your next challenge, is becoming a very solid player that a drummer is going to want to play with. And he wants to hear the instrument sound like a bass guitar, which is another reason I just love the Warr, because to me, it does. It has that bottom end that Randy's talking about, the body. And as you've mentioned before, Finbar, this idea that, okay, I've got a 3-note chord in my right hand and a 3-note chord in my left hand. And like Randy said, with the slash chords, suddenly you see how diatonic harmony fits together for a piano player, something that wasn't apparent to me as a guitar player, but which I loved about piano players as a musician. Is, I would watch George Duke play, and he's doing a tremendous accompaniment for himself, for his solo in his left hand, while he's playing this incredible right hand thing. And that is definitely a possibility on the Warr. You could still have a bass player and play chords for yourself if you wanted to.
Yeah, I found, as someone, again, who's early into the instrument, the first lesson that just blew my mind was, I obviously spent a lot of years, I taught at the Conservatorium in Australia. I've done all this theory and bits and pieces, but I looked at it through a guitar player's lens, because I've always only got 6 strings, or in my case, 7 strings. And so I thought I had my chops down and my theory and bits and pieces. But once I got on a Warr guitar, and I could then say, well, here is a bass chord over a melody chord, and I could see those slash chords, and then I could basically get a good understanding of the harmonic, just this depth of harmony and how things synthesize together. Then all of a sudden, all the chord extensions made sense. Everything made sense from a musical perspective rather than a theory perspective. And I was like, wow, it was like the final jigsaw puzzle in the theory then came home to roost into a lot simpler sort of concept. And I started thinking, well, why wasn't I taught the simple way in the first place? But I guess it was limited through that instrument. But you talked about timing too. When I've taken some lessons off both you guys. And it's it's the simplest thing of having a blues, just a straight E that's on the beat while you're playing something with the right hand, with 2 notes on the left hand on the same note. But once it drops into the pocket, there's this aha moment, and it's so simple.
Oh, yeah.
But to get it on the beat, you can just feel it. I remember I think, Jim, we did this Stevie Wonder piece, and it was just, as I was practicing it, I could play the notes and stuff, but once it falls into the groove, and it's just another exciting moment for me in my journey of learning that, I could feel the groove on the instrument I'm playing rather than just shredding notes or playing chords, because I'm making the groove between both hands, if that makes sense.
I just played that last night in rehearsal with the band, that tune, and I love it. It makes me high to play that groove, and it kind of takes on a life of its own, and it's something that I wouldn't be able to do as a 6-string guitar player. I just wouldn't have that ability, and I never became proficient at keyboard. I understand it, but I don't have a proficiency at it. And so the Warr for me just supplies so much gratification in that way, to have that beautiful sound combined with the ability to do 2 ideas at once. And I think it's truly integrating both halves of your brain in a really
So,
wonderful
you know,
way.
Randy, like you, I watch you play, and you just you just rip. It's just like, you know, just like you're playing some of those lines, and it's just flowing out so effortlessly. And you know, I know there's just so much work that's gone into that, but you know, it's a testament to your playing, but also the instrument to allow that capability. A lot of these touch instruments, you know, they're good for doing little arpeggio things, but to be able to play those complex walking bass lines with really beautiful, you know, jazz improv on one side with the speed, and also, you know, I listen to you, Jim, doing the zapper stuff with the distortion. You know, it's a real testament to not only your playing, but what this instrument can do. It's not just some airy fairy atmospheric thing you can do here. You can just open this thing up and put it on 11 and just shred. You know.
You're too kind. And I'm so surprised to learn that Randy is basically self-taught. I mean, there was a time when we were doing shows together, and we would play jazz tunes, and then it would come time for Randy to take a solo, and I would just stop playing. He would accompany himself, and then we'd switch back, and he'd stop playing while I accompanied him,
right.
because he knew that if he played anything, he was just going to get in my way. The only other player I played with who really fully understood that was Wolfgang Dice, a German musician who
Wolfgang.
I would put him on the same level as Randy. He's just such an incredible musician.
Yeah, Wolfgang's great. And the other thing is, I would just add to that if you kind of give the nod, okay, the bass is yours now. I'm going to stay out of your way. You know, okay, now the bass is yours now. You know, just handing it off the bass side, just so you don't step on the guy's bass line. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
And so we used to do that together too, right? So
Well, that's what I mean. That
On that, let
That
me
shows
just
me-
jump to a video. I just want to jump to just this improv
Okay.
section of Randy shredding on this piece, and then we'll come back. Okay, so that was Randy ripping it up on his blues and C. So where was that recorded, Randy?
yeah, so this is recorded. My dear friend Jay Shellen, who is an amazing prog rock drummer and one of the best in the world, has recently been playing with Yes on tour. Imagine playing that music, all of it. You know, it's amazing that he's got a grasp on that music like nobody. And actually, Jim was there that day, and he did the camera work for me and the editing and everything. So those two guys.
There's another one of Randy's tune Peach Pie from that same session.
Right. Okay. Well,
And
people
we
can
did
check
that when
out on
Randy and
YouTube.
I.
They can check
Yeah,
that
we
on
did that.
YouTube.
I'm sorry, I was going to say we did that because Randy and I were going to do a seminar. We actually did a seminar in Baltimore in 2007. run by a wonderful guy named Dan Mendoza.
Oh,
And so we wanted
that
to
was amazing.
advertise the seminar, and we made the videos to show Randy's, because I had videos of me playing up, but there were no videos of Randy, and he's such a tremendous player. It's like, okay, let's make this.
Yeah.
And Jay was nice to help, and it was, of course, a great treat for me to meet Jay.
Great.
Yeah, so that's his personal studio, and he gets the best drum sound in the world in there. It's incredible. Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome. So, okay, so now we've blown everyone's minds, both of you guys. How do we, let's say you're sitting at home and you're watching this and you're going, wow, like, how do I get started? What are ways, Warr guitars are obviously the Rolls Royce of the instrument. How would you guys recommend that someone start? Is there some hacks they could try? I know both you guys teach, and look, I've taken lessons with both of you and you're both unbelievable. But is there any ideas that you might have in terms of how might you start thinking about touch, getting into this style?
Absolutely. I mean, people can look at Stanley Jordan. He's doing this technique on a 6-string guitar. You could start there. I remember there was a European player, Matthias Soroff, who used to play the bass on his stick, but then he would have a 6-string guitar mounted because he liked the tone of that better. And he would it was like a keyboard player with 2 instruments. He would have this playing the bass, and then over here, he's got the guitar mounted on a stand, and he's doing, so you could do it that way. Obviously, you could also do it with 5 or 6-string bass, 4 or 5 or 6-string bass. And of course, there are bass players who are famous for tapping technique as much as there are guitar players like Eddie Van Halen and Stanley Jordan who are famous for their tapping technique. So, I mean, that would be the first place to start. If you're a guitar or bass player, you can immediately start doing it on your instrument.
Okay. Well, yeah, like last week, I synthesized back some of my knowledge from touch style into a guitar course, which is available on my YouTube channel. And it's just about tuning into perfect force, basically, and just how that opens the fingerboard. And look, for me, if you've got a 7-string guitar, you could easily have your melody strings in 4th from the 6 strings down, and you have your 7th string as a bass string, and then play around with that. But yeah, look, that's, there's ways to try this and to play around with it. But I just wondered if you guys had some suggestions. So that's great, Jim. I appreciate that. Look, we're sort of getting towards the end of the session, but I just wanted to sort of touch base, on like, what do you guys, are you working on any projects at the moment? Are you, is there anything that you wanted to sort of share with the community, the greater community, about the Warr guitar in general, or just anything else about your playing, or anything that might be interesting for them to check out?
I would like to add to anybody watching in Europe that Daniel Schell does a seminar every summer, usually the 2nd week of July, that takes anybody on any type of tap instrument. He has definitive courses and plans that he has done. I will be teaching a class on playing Frank Zappa's Black Page No. 2 remotely for him this summer. Randy has taught at ETAP 3 times. So that's one of the things in my plans. I need to finish. I have more Zappa tunes that I would like to make videos of, so I hope I can get them done soon. And now that California is opening up, I can't wait to get back playing. I have the pop group. I put a little notice the other day on Facebook where people can watch us rehearse every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. So if you're interested in that, you can look at that, and hopefully we'll be out playing again soon.
Great.
But actually, I'm one of those people that enjoyed the shutdown because I'm such an introvert, and I got a lot done.
And Randy, what are you up to, buddy?
Well, I was doing a lot of gigs, solo gigs. After we talked about the crash of '08, and after that, most of my gigs turned into solo gigs because I'm cheaper than 4 guys. And then, so I played a lot for years, played a lot of just wine bars and restaurants, nice gigs, and kind of very atmospheric, but interesting for the people that are there. And then right before COVID, I got super sick, and so I kind of got pulled out of the game. I was ill, and then COVID came when I was starting to get better, and so there's no gigs anyway. You know, so there's no of those restaurant wine bar gigs anyway. So I'm just looking forward to getting back to
normal.
playing some live, get back to normal. Everybody wants to get back to normal
sure.
after this
Absolutely.
thing. Everybody, that's the whole, yeah. So,
And I'll mention that I do have a Bandcamp page if people want to look at my own music, jimwright.bandcamp.com.
Yay.
And I've just got a copy of Jim's latest album. It's awesome. So,
that's already
right.
5 years old.
Yeah, I have enjoyed it many times.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you're too kind, both of you.
Well, guys, look, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We're about building this community, about, bringing touch guitar to the masses. It is an incredible instrument. It opens brand new horizons for you. You're lucky watching this to see two of the masters of this and legends of this whole space. And I'm very honored to have them with me. And, ask any questions you want, ask away. I'll make sure that they get them. And, we're going to keep this as a regular thing. So if you've got any suggestions about any upcoming sessions, we've got a bunch of great players. We've got Brian Kenny Fresno coming up, Mark Cook.
Yeah.
We're really trying to bring this community back together. Pete Hannawinkle's building Warr guitars again. He's such an artist. He's the man. So all the guitars that we're playing is all built by him. And if you need any contact with him, just hit me up. But guys,
they say nothing is.
Go on.
I was just going to say, they say nothing is made in the United States anymore, but Pete Hannawinkle is the exception to that rule.
He is the exception to that rule. And his, I think we talked about, how good his instruments are. Well, it's.
Oh, I don't want to play anybody else's instruments.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you for tuning into yet another episode of Raiders of the Lost Art. Can you please thank my amazing guest, Randy Strom. Yay! Randy, good on you, buddy. And Jim Wright. Good on you, Jim. Thanks, buddy. Guys,
thank you, Finbar, thank you so much, Finbar, for your interest and your enthusiasm about this. It's really refreshing.
No, well, it's great to be connected with amazing people like you. All right.
My pleasure.
Thanks again, guys. Have a great week.
All right.
Cheers.